Okay, so we've come to almost the last few minutes before the end of the trimester. I am taking this opportunity to offer you a consultation time for your assessment. Please make sure you attend the next one for your consultation. Okay, let's have a look at this topic today. In the last webinar, we discussed about the following topics: the transition from growth to maturity, challenges in mature markets, the growth agenda, and market leaders' action in the maturity market. Okay, so today we are going to discuss the global marketing strategy as part of our agenda today. So briefly discuss about what it is about and global marketing strategy, and also the marketing management involved in the global marketing activities. Okay, so global marketing concept has been used since the 1980s, although the international marketing or global marketing activities have been conducted many years before that, even before the First World War. And prior to the concept global marketing, international or multinational marketing was the term used to describe international marketing activities. And now it is the global marketing is considered as the subcategory of international marketing. Okay, so in the first inception of the business would focus more on the domestic marketing, and then they evolve into a large company. So they may install the capital expenditure, the machinery, and so on and so forth. That is actually quite expensive, and to reduce the costs, they actually try to expand the business through international marketing or international business operation. Okay, some people differentiate the term international business and international marketing. International business is used to describe the business activities in the beyond the boundary of certain country, whilst international marketing is more about the marketing activities, the building relationship and transaction, whilst the business actually refers to the entire business activities, such as the manufacturing, the human resources, and so on and so forth. Okay, and now the question is, what are the criteria to declare that a company operates globally? When they do the export business, let's say they ship the products to certain countries, would we be able to claim that this company performs global marketing activities? Well, there is a bit of discussion about that, and normally people use the sales as one of the criteria. If the majority of the sales come from overseas markets, we can claim that it is a global marketing company. But if the majority of sales still comes from domestic market, okay, let's say 80% or more than 50%. Okay, when it comes to percentage, we can use 50% as a rule of thumb. So if more than 50% of sales come from overseas market, we can claim that it is a global marketing operations, where we expect these companies to have operations globally. Okay, so that's briefly about the global marketing. And again, we normally have the several phases as discussed before. We start with the setting our foundations in domestic marketing. We have the we have the operations in domestic market, and after that we have the capacity, and we do export business. Okay, and after that we become a multinational company because we open windows business in overseas market. These companies focus on marketing activities in the other markets, where else we may still source the products from domestic market. And we develop the pan-regional marketing, okay, or you could say that we develop Asia Pacific region, or Europe region, or North American region, basically. So that kind of regional marketing that we conduct until we become global marketing. Now, the concept global marketing also requires the company to be to operate in global adopting the global standards in terms of linking one company to the other company, and adopting the strategies for global market as well. Okay, so this is in diagram. Basically, this slide shows the diagram. So first we develop the business for domestic market, and then we export to different country. Okay, and we become multi-country, multinational, and then since each company link one to another in a global marketing operation, so we become the global marketing. Okay. All right, so that's briefly what we mean by global marketing strategy. That involves the creation of single strategy for a product, service, or company for the entire global market. Now, in saying that, we can also challenge whether the strategy that we develop in one market is applicable to the other markets. That is actually a big question. Whether you can imagine what about Coke, McDonald's, and so on and so forth. They adopt, would they be able to adopt the same strategy for all markets, basically? So that is a big question that we also need to look at carefully. All right, so, but at least what we try to achieve in here is it encompasses, the strategy encompasses many countries simultaneously. Okay, so there may be some adaptation or adjustments to the product or service, or a few parts of the of our strategy, such as promotional strategies, for instance, to ensure that it suits the local market. Okay? In global marketing, the company settles on one general strategy. Okay, and so the grand strategy is still we still have one grand strategy, although the execution may be localized. All right, so that is something that we also need to differentiate. So you can imagine any brand such as McDonald's, for instance. The global platform is the same thing, and they may adjust their own product offering to each market. In fact, in Sydney area, for instance, they may adjust the product to certain suburbs. Okay, so if you go to certain areas in Sydney where we have a large group of people adopting religion that stops them from eating, non-halal food, they adjust their offering to halal food to that market, for instance. Okay, so yes, we have lots of global brands here: McDonald's, Nike, Coke, and some other brands as well. And I think it is also interesting as a food for thought. If you can think of Australian brands that becomes global brands, that will be a food for thought as well. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to the global marketing management, which is basically process to craft a coherent, integrated, and unified marketing strategy for product or service against the entire global market opportunity. Again, the word unified in here, we also need to look at it from a business perspective, where we also need to allow some adjustments to it. If we go back to McDonald's, for instance, it's a well-known global brand. In some markets in Asia, for instance, they adapt their products. In Indonesia, for instance, they offer rice and chicken as well. Whilst in Australia, they are pretty much a burger company with salad and a few other products as well. Okay, so the term unified marketing strategy is actually more into the grand strategy on how they build the brand. And at the end of the day, they also need to make sure that they fulfill the customer's need, the local customer's need. That may be different, okay? And we also need to be aware that customers' need may be affected by the culture and also the personality of the customers, okay? All right, so we talk about the standardization as we discussed briefly before, and there are some companies that adapt the offering, and there are some other companies that standardize the offering. So if we draw a line, we have standardization and we have adaptation on one end. They actually revolve around different objectives. Okay, standardize. Okay. The companies that adopt standardization would normally implement the same thing, same program, same products, all right? And they would normally aim at larger profitable business, because that helps them to absorb the costs. Whilst the company that adjusts their offering basically aims at meeting the customer's needs. Okay, so they are more into driving the revenue growth. They are more into driving the market leadership achievements or market share achievements through the adaptation. Now, in today's business, it may be hard for us to find a purely standardized operations unless it is unless the customers are not that many. If you think about the fast-moving consumer goods, for instance, you may find this business to adjust their own product and services. For instance, at least they adjust their packaging. If you go to Thai market, for instance, you may find the packaging has been translated to local Thai language, to help the customers understand their brand and appreciate their brand. Okay, so that's basically the standardization and globalization. And again, it may be hard for us to find a company that adopts pure standardization. Okay, and a bit of illustration. Some adjustment made here. Pajero and Montero, for instance, in Australia and Spain, slightly adjustments. And that is influence, again, as discussed before. The cultural factors also play a critical role. We need to ensure that our offering meets the culture standards, and this is what I mean by culture: set of ideals, values, standards adopted by member of society. And the culture factors involve language, family, religion, reference group, work and leisure, culture adaptation, cultural change, and so on and so forth. Okay, and from consumer behavior perspective, definitely culture has some influences on marketing. You may recall your topics in your E1 subjects, and that basically affects the culture forces, basically affects how consumers make their decision. Okay, so the value that the customer adopts, for instance, influence the customer's selection on certain products, goods and services, and definitely the culture has the culture messages such as symbols, morals, rules, sets of rules or behavior. And in fact, some scholars say that it is the institution or informal institution, cultural forces actually become the informal institutions that affect how we behave in our society. Okay, from institutional context theory perspective, right? Now, language is another one. Is another component of culture. Okay, it includes symbols that certain culture groups adopt to communicate among themselves. Okay, it also reflects how they express their thinking or thinking pattern in a culture. Okay, and religion is another one. Okay, that affects how consumers select certain products. Some markets may contain, some markets may consist of vegetarian people, for instance, vegetarian consumers. So we also need to be aware of that. So we need to consider how we can adjust our offering. Okay. Education is an important element. This education actually helps us to understand how receptive the consumers are to foreign marketing stimulus. The idea is if the customers are literally fine, well, it may be easier for us to communicate our messages, to communicate complicated messages. Okay, otherwise you may have some limitations for a marketing program. And the other element of education that affects marketing is the earning potential. There is also there are also studies that show earning potential is affected by the level of literacy. So if our customers are basically high in terms of literacy, so their earning potential may also be affected pretty in a positive way. Okay, right. Now, global advertising is an interesting topic because there's always a debate in terms of how we should communicate our brands to the customers. And in saying that, there's a flavor of the debates to maintain the message, the key brand message. And on the other side, there is also another issue in terms of meeting the cultural standards. Okay, so if in one market you find certain deodorant brand showing some sexiness in quote unquote in their advertising campaign, well, that campaign may be quite hard, maybe difficult if we use that campaign in certain conservative markets. Okay, so that's one thing that we also need to look at. And the other thing, aside from the execution level, is basically about understanding whether we really can just translate the current advertising copy to many languages, because sometimes there are some words that we can't translate, or it may also be inappropriate to the other language from culture perspective. So we also need to be careful in terms of implementing global advertising campaign. Okay, now this is an example. Coca-Cola, for instance, has been translated into Mandarin as Coca-Cola, which is basically about happiness in the mouth. Well, that one still, works quite nice. I believe the guys at Cope will be happy with this as well. Yeah, that's basically a few issues about the global advertising as part of the global marketing campaign. Okay, all right. Now let's look at the next one. Okay, the next one is briefly about the digital economy as part of our marketing strategy. We like it or not, we are now in the digital economy. I believe you have been involved in digital technologies, using social media, for instance, and so on and so forth. So yes, the digital economy is here. Now, from marketing perspective, the digital technologies offers some challenges and also opportunities for us, depending on whether you have got the infrastructure to adopt it or not. Okay, some challenges in here is keeping pace with the emerging technology. It's quite fast. The development of technologies are very fast. Okay, and the other challenge that companies may face is the failure in terms of integrating the digital technologies to in their organization. And the other challenge is the resistance to change, basically with the digital technologies that allows us to communicate easily among ourselves and also with the customers. Okay, and the internet access and connectivity in different markets may be different. In Australia, it's all right, it's not that, but of course we expect that to be better than that. And of course, if we look at South Korea market, for instance, the internet access is much faster than Australia. That is a lot different. And if you go to the other market, for instance, it may be slower than the Australian internet speed, and also the access may be different. Okay. And actually, in terms of digital marketing, digital economy, the big message is actually the connectivity. Okay, it is the foundation in the digital technology, where it allows us to be connected more digitally. Okay, and with that, actually, marketers can gain some benefits because they can build the connection or the relationship with the customers better. Remember, the essence of marketing is actually building the relationship with the customers. Okay, and there are several reasons, several purposes of using social media. We use it to publish, to share, to discuss, or to perform commerce, and we also use it for to build the social location platforms, for instance, networking and also gaming. Okay, so there's several purposes of using social media. And again, one of the things that I would like to highlight in terms of the digital direct marketing is actually about its power in terms of understanding the customers better, because the customers are willingly to share their information to us when they are connected with us. Okay. Okay. Now, just in terms of the information management, there are two types of information management here: top-down marketing, and the other one is bottom-up, which is basically the new one-to-one marketing, where it starts with data from real-time information. You can look at digital analytics data that our websites and also social media tools have provided us. Okay, so with that we can do data mining, which is basically leading to finding new patterns. Okay, All right, and basically, this is the 7 C's of the customer's interface. That is something that we can consider when it comes to working on our digital marketing campaign, where the focus is actually again to build the relationship at one-to-one or personal level. So, for our website, for instance, please consider the content, sites layout, and design, and experts suggest that the content needs to include video because it is more interactive, so that helps us to improve our search results. Okay, commerce, it should enable the transactions. Okay, so in the traditional model, marketing has been considered as building relationships. Now, the word relationships in here has actually contained the transaction component, transaction flavor. Okay, so when we build the relationship with the customers, it may also include transactions. All right. Now, this digital technology allows marketers to achieve to that point. Okay. Connection, definitely, we build the connection with the customers, and it is actual at personal level. And in terms of communications, it enables us to have the two-way communication. And actually, some scholars also suggest it enables us to have multi-way communications, because the customers can communicate to the customers, and they can also communicate to our competitors aside from communicating with us. And customization, definitely, to allow the personalization of the site, so we personalize it to the customer's usage pattern. Community is an important aspect in the digital marketing campaign, in our digital marketing strategy. It allows the user-to-user communication. So the purpose of digital marketing strategy is actually to build the community. Okay, it helps us to build the communication, the connection with the customers, right? And last one is again content that needs to consider text, pictures, videos, etc. Okay. And again, I just want to highlight the privacy and security in the digital world, and make sure that we only send the message to the customers who have given us their consent. Otherwise, it is breaching the privacy legislation. Australia has an extensive privacy legislation as well. So yes, we need to be aware of that. And we also need to allow the customers to change their privacy, their consent, if they want to. Okay, so that has actually the digital technology, digital marketing has actually given us the opportunity to contribute in the digital economy, and that has benefits for both customers and also marketers. From the customer's perspective, the digital marketing gives them lots of benefits in terms of convenience to do transactions, convenience to do research, because they have wealth of product when it comes to online. They can do some research before they make decision on their purchase. So that gives them strong benefits as well. And from the marketer's perspective, digital marketing actually opens more opportunities for us to understand the customers better, because we can understand through digital analytics data, we can understand the behavior of the customers, the profile of the customers, that leads us to understand uncovering more opportunities with the customers. And the data also helps us to conduct some data mining activities that leads to hypotheses on new opportunities, for instance. Okay, and of course the digital marketing opens more opportunities for marketers, in the sense that we can reach more customers without physically build the distribution network. And if you notice that that also has helped post office to change their business model. In Australia, Australia Post has now focused more on the e-commerce to support the e-commerce, the growth of e-commerce. Okay, all right. So that's basically the digital marketing. Okay, so this is actually our last topic, the marketing information system, and we will discuss briefly about this. And actually, this is a short presentation just to summarize this topic. You can review your e-text to get more insights, to get a richer insights. Okay. Well, in the previous topic, we discussed about the digital marketing, and actually one of the impact of digital marketing is the big data. Okay, in the olden days, marketers actually shout for more information, scream for more information because we are lacking of information. And in today's business landscape, marketers actually face a different challenge, which is basically about big data. We are facing tons of data, if you like, and big data itself has become a new buzzword in marketing. So if you type in the Google search box, big data, you'll find lots of articles around big data. Because how do we get to this big data? Well, look, customers can also post anything on the net, and that helps us to understand, to get more information about the customers. And with the increase of internet penetration, that is actually contributing a lot to the big data. Okay, so in brief, we are now facing a new ball game where we have big data, and that requires us to have the analysis. And in fact, some companies hire marketing automation agencies to help them slicing and dicing the data and leading them to the opportunities. Okay, remember the key points in digital marketing is one-to-one relationship or customize the relationship with the customers. That includes the offering and so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, so this is what we mean by marketing information system, which is basically, people say it is a computerized system. And in my, you could also argue that the marketing information system is the process of understanding what information that we need and how we fulfill that needs and distribute that information to the relevant parties. We may include computerized system, we may include manual system in some other markets. Okay. Right, so again, the MIS includes the collaborative model with potential with the research agencies and also the other business functions internally. And the other thing that I'd like to highlight is the data analytics that may also be involved in the marketing and information system. Okay, so this is briefly about the marketing information systems, where we expect to make decisions and communications. And here we conduct the analysis, planning, and control. We analyze the needs of information. We distribute the information as discussed before to the relevant stakeholders. And in doing so, we actually try to understand the information from marketing environment. Okay. Right, so it's quite strategic because in a knowledge intensive economy, we need to make decisions based on the information. Okay?